I was never one for fate, for all that mystical nonsense about omens and signs. But if you pressed me, put a colt to my head, and demanded I pinpoint the exact moment the flimsy scaffolding of my life began to buckle, I'd finger the day that support beam snapped at the construction site. My name is Everett, 42 years old, and up until that greasy Tuesday, I'd cultivated the illusion that my existence was built on something solid, something approaching stable ground. There was Barbara, my wife, 39. She could turn a phrase with a viper's wit when she felt like it, which wasn't often with me anymore. More often, she was a locked door, a blank wall. Then there was Gage, her son, my stepson, 16. He drifted into my life when he was 8, a sullen little cloud of preteen angst already forming. I married Barbara, and by default, I got him. From day one, I was the intruder, the guy who didn't belong in their tight, slightly dysfunctional orbit. Still, I put on a show. Built him a goddamn treehouse he used twice. Tried to teach him to fish, the little prick more interested in his phone. Batting cages a few times, my attempt at some Rockwellian fantasy. We had moments, sure, fleeting instances where I thought, maybe this isn't a complete disaster. But underneath it all, the whole blended family charade, something was festering, a rot we all pretended not to smell. 8 years, Barbara and I. 8 years of a life constructed more from the bricks of routine and obligation than any genuine affection. I told myself it was enough. Morning coffee, same stale inside jokes that had lost their punchlines years ago, date nights at the same mediocre Italian place where the waiter knew my order by heart. We didn't fight much, we didn't do much of anything. It was a beige existence, comfortable in its sheer soul-crushing predictability. In hindsight, that was the damn problem, wasn't it? I'd convinced myself this sterile peace was happiness, that my paycheck was a substitute for actual connection. If her son was a surly little fool who wouldn't give me the time of day, well, that was just teenagers, right? I ignored every goddamn warning flare, the increasingly frequent girls' weekends, where she'd come back looking more exhausted than refreshed, the way she'd cradle her phone like a lover, whispering into it late at night, always about some crisis. At work, I needed a catastrophic failure, a literal 2x4 to the skull, to jolt me out of my self-imposed stupor, and boy did I get it. The beam collapsing wasn't a gentle affair. It was a 12-gauge blast of concrete and steel. My leg shattered, tibia, fibula, the whole damn chorus line. 3 ribs cracked like dry twigs, one puncturing a lung. Nearly bled out on a pile of rebar and dust. The doctors, bless their patronizing hearts, kept patting my arm, telling me how lucky I was. Lucky. I was drowning in a sea of agony, my leg hoisted in traction like some grotesque piece of modern art. Tubes snaked from my nose, my chest, monitoring my every pathetic breath. Nights in that sterile cage blurred into a monotonous hellscape of pain, morphine-induced hazes, the distant squeak of gurneys, and the incessant, infuriating beep of machines tethering me to consciousness. My sister, Bernice. She was there. Every damn day. Homemade soup that tasted like ashes in my mouth, updates on Curtis, my dog, probably the only creature in my house who genuinely gave a crap about me. She'd stay through the worst of it when the pain meds wore off and the screaming started in my head. She was my anchor in that crap storm. And Barbara, my loving wife of 8 years, vanished. Poof, gone. Not the first day, when they weren't sure I'd make it through the night. Not the 5th, when I was lucid enough to ask for her. Not the 10th. 40 goddamn minutes. That's the drive. 40 minutes she couldn't spare for her husband who'd nearly cashed in his chips. I tried calling, the hospital phone heavy and slick in my sweating palm. The first time she answered with a groan, something mumbled about Gage having a soccer game. Can't make it, Ev. You know how it is. The second time, a curt, Curtis is sick, took him to the vet, can't leave him. The third, fourth, 5th time, straight to voicemail. Her professionally cheerful message, a cruel mockery. Around day 5, a sliver of actual panic wormed its way through the pain and resentment. Maybe she was in an accident. Maybe something terrible had happened. Bernice, ever the pragmatist, just shook her head, her expression a mixture of pity and weary resignation. Everett, you know Barbara, she said, her voice gentle but firm. She does what benefits Barbara. Always has, always will. Deep down, I knew she was right, but some pathetic, hopeful part of me still clung to the idea of a reasonable explanation. A week bled into 10 days, 10 days into 2 weeks, 2 weeks into 3. The nurses, initially all brisk efficiency, started giving me those looks. You know the ones. The pitying glances, the overly solicitous offers of an extra pudding cup. Tessa, one of the younger nurses, kinder than most, would sometimes perch on the edge of my bed, offer a hand that felt surprisingly steady. She never asked directly why my wife was a ghost, but the question hung in the air between us, thick and suffocating as the antiseptic smell of the ward. It was nearly 4 weeks. 4 goddamn weeks of staring at acoustic ceiling tiles, listening to the symphony of suffering around me before I finally got Barbara on the phone. Her voice was breezy, casual, like she was talking to a distant acquaintance she'd bumped into at the grocery store. "So," I croaked, my throat raw, "thinking of gracing me with your presence anytime soon? Or are you waiting for the funeral?" A beat of silence. Then, "Honestly, Everett, you're not worth the gas money right now." Her tone was flat, devoid of any emotion, like she was discussing the price of milk. "Just die fast or heal quick, okay? I'm tired of this whole in-between thing. It's inconvenient." The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the scratchy hospital blanket. Her voice, tinny and distant, continued to chirp from the receiver. Then, a different voice, Gage's unmistakably smug adolescent sneer. "Yeah, we don't miss you, old man." Click. I just lay there. The world tilted, then slowly righted itself. The steady, rhythmic beep of the heart monitor was the only sound, a cold, mechanical confirmation that I was, despite their apparent wishes, still alive. Let me tell you, morphine can dull the edges of a shattered bone, but it doesn't touch that kind of evisceration, that kind of cold, calculated cruelty. I spent the next few nights wide awake, the pain in my leg a dull throb compared to the gaping wound in my chest. Every memory, every interaction with Barbara, every dismissive sneer from Gage played on a loop in my head. How had I been so freaking blind? How had I missed the Grand Canyon-sized cracks, spiderwebbing through the foundation of my marriage, my life? Each day, Bernice, bless her loyal heart, brought me not just soup, but another nail for the coffin of my denial. Bank statements with gaping holes where our money used to be. Strange, significant withdrawals. Receipts from jewelry stores I'd never set foot in. Plane tickets to Cancun. A solo trip for Barbara, apparently, booked while I was fighting off pneumonia in an ICU. She was siphoning off our joint accounts, our future, feathering her nest, and, as I'd soon discover, the nest of someone else. A neighbor, Silvio. Some slick, recently divorced prick who'd moved in 6 months prior. Apparently, he'd been helping her out, fixing all the little problems around the house while I was busy trying not to die. The image of him, hands all over my tools, my house, my wife, sent a fresh wave of bile into my throat. "Think about it, Ev," Bernice said, arms crossed, shoving another damning bank statement under my nose. Her eyes were hard. "While you're lying here, literally fighting for your life, she's out there laughing it up with this gigolo. Setting up a new life with your money. Are you just going to lie here and take it? Let her bleed you dry and dance on your grave?" She knew me. Knew that beneath the layers of complacency I'd wrapped myself in, there was a core of something harder, something that, once ignited, wouldn't be easily extinguished. But first, I had to get the hell out of that hospital. My doctor, a well-meaning but overly cautious man, insisted on at least another 3 weeks. "Infection risk," he droned. My leg was a latticework of metal rods and pins. Breathing was still a conscious effort. Tessa, the nurse, tried her gentle persuasion. "Everett, please, it's not safe. You need monitoring." But I'd had enough. Enough of the pity, enough of the helplessness, enough of being a goddamn patient. I signed myself out. AMA, a scrawled signature of defiance. Bernice, her lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval, but her eyes, understanding, drove me to a Staybridge Suites, an extended stay hotel. Anonymous, bleak, but mine. It was time to claw back some semblance of control, some iota of power in the wreckage of my own life. "You sure about this, Ev?" Bernice asked, her voice laced with genuine concern as she helped me hobble into the sterile room. "What if something goes wrong? You're not exactly in fighting shape." "Staying in that bed, Bernice," I rasped, sinking onto the stiff mattress. "That's what's wrong. Every day there I feel more like a sufferer, a casualty. Out here, at least I can start fighting back." The first night in that soulless hotel room was a special kind of hell. No beeping machines, no hushed footsteps of nurses in the corridor. Just me, My throbbing, braced leg, the stale smell of industrial cleaner, and the crushing, inescapable knowledge that the woman I'd shared my bed with for 8 years was actively robbing me blind and screwing another man, probably in that very bed. The rage was a living thing, coiling in my gut, hot and venomous. Days were spent on the phone, a cheap burner I'd had Bernice pick up. First, a new bank account solely in my name. Then, securing documents, birth certificate, social security card, anything an unscrupulous witch might try to leverage. I didn't tell Barbara I'd left the hospital. When she bothered to text, usually a perfunctory "how you," I'd reply with a vague, "Still here. Doctors say a while longer." Her response, a thumbs-up emoji. Damn classic Barbara. If it wasn't about her, or if she didn't have a pre-rehearsed script, she defaulted to indifferent silence or digital platitudes. The real ammunition, the spark that lit the fuse of my meticulously planned offensive, came from Bernice. Barbara was planning a trip. Nashville, a girls' weekend, she'd apparently announced to anyone who'd listen. I knew, with a certainty that settled cold and hard in my stomach, that girls' weekend was code. Sylvia would be there, or some other distraction paid for with my money. That was it. D-Day, the day I'd unleash what I'd grimly dubbed Operation Scorched Earth. This wasn't about getting my stuff back. This was about erasure. This was about making her feel a fraction of the desolation I'd felt in that hospital bed. This wasn't an impulse. This was cold, calculated strategy. I met a lawyer. Reggie. Guy looked more like a roadie for a defunct rock band. Jeans, faded concert tee, sneakers, but his eyes were sharp, and his reputation was sharper. He showed up at my hotel, no airs, just a battered briefcase and a tablet. "So," he said, scrolling through something on his screen, not even looking at me. "Divorce? Or just want to scare her straight with the separation?" "Divorce?" I bit out, the word tasting like acid. "And I want it to hurt." Reggie finally looked up, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. "All right, in this state, marital assets are split 50-50, but hurt, that's a different kind of currency. We can be methodical. We can be precise. We can be legal. You want to strip the house? Fine. Make a list. Everything you owned before you shackled yourself to her. That's yours. No contest. Joint property, we itemize, we value, we take your half. No more, no less, on paper. But the impact, that's where the art comes in." He smirked, a thin, humorless smile. He understood. Hours. I spent hours on those goddamn lists, my handwriting shaky from a combination of residual weakness and simmering fury. Bernice, my loyal soldier, did reconnaissance. Slipped into the house one afternoon when Barbara was at work, probably with Silvio, and took pictures. Furniture, electronics, silverware, even the goddamn lawnmower. I cataloged everything. The living room set we'd bought together, she liked the color, I hated it. The bedroom suite I'd owned long before she'd sunk her claws into me. Half the kitchen appliances, Reggie's voice, cool and precise in my ear. Blender, toaster, microwave. Take one, leave one, or take the expensive ones. The big screen TV I'd bought for Super Bowl parties she never attended. My old recliner, the one she always complained about. My tools from the garage, my tools, not Silvio's playthings. The only hesitation, the only flicker of something other than cold rage, was Gage's room. Years. I'd wasted years trying to connect with that sullen little crap. But then I remembered his voice on the phone. "We don't miss you, old man." And the fancy gaming system, the one I'd shelled out a fortune for last Christmas, hoping to buy a sliver of his approval. Reggie had been clear. "Your funds bought it during the marriage. It's a marital asset if it wasn't a clear gift to him alone with documentation. Take it if you want. Send a message." Oh, I wanted to send a message, all right. A big flashing neon sign of a message. So the console went on the list. Guilt? A tiny, insignificant tremor, drowned out by the cacophony of betrayal. We booked the movers for a Saturday, smack in the middle of Barbara's Nashville girls' trip. Swift, merciless, clinical. I was still unsteady on my feet, relying heavily on crutches, my leg a dull, persistent ache. Bernice would supervise the heavy lifting, but I had to be there. I needed to witness it, to breathe the air of my own liberation, to watch the physical manifestation of my old life being dismantled. Saturday, 8 a.m. The moving truck, an enormous, impersonal beast, rumbled to a stop in front of the house I hadn't laid eyes on in over 2 months. As the movers, burly and impassive, hopped out, Bernice shot me a look. Last chance to reconsider, Everett. Pull the plug. Her voice was light, but her eyes were serious. I've come too far to turn back now, B, I said, my voice rougher than I intended. Burn it all down. Walking through that front door was like stepping into a stranger's life. Curtis, my loyal mutt, came skittering down the stairs, nails scrabbling on the hardwood, a joyous, yelping cannonball of fur. He damn near knocked me off my crutches, licking my face, whining his forgiveness for my absence. God, I'd missed him. The house itself, disturbingly, unnaturally tidy. Not a speck of dust. The woman who considered vacuuming a form of medieval torture had apparently discovered domesticity for her lover. The bitterness was a corrosive burn in my chest. She'd transformed my home into a love nest for him. Systematically, we began. My pre-marriage bedroom set, the heavy oak she'd always despised, the coffee table we'd bought, a joint decision I now regretted, half the kitchen crap, as per Reggie's cold calculus, the TV, my recliner, every tool, every fishing rod, every book that was mine. The movers were efficient, their faces stony like a SWAT team clearing a hostile building. They worked from my itemized list, precise and uncaring. Barbara's vanity, her clothes spilling from the closet, her ridiculous collection of knickknacks all left untouched. I didn't want her tainted possessions. I wanted to leave her with the shell of what she'd destroyed. Pizza on the living room floor, surrounded by a landscape of boxes and gaping emptiness. The silence in the half-empty house was massive, broken only by the rustle of packing tape and the occasional grunt from the movers. One of them, a young guy with tired eyes, finally spoke. "Rough day, man. Been there." I just nodded, stuffing another slice of greasy pepperoni into my mouth, focusing on the spice, the salt, anything but the gnawing void where my marriage used to be. By 7, the truck was loaded, a monument to 8 years of carefully curated resentment. I locked the front door behind me, the click of the deadbolt unnaturally loud in the sudden quiet. Should I have left a note? A pithy one-liner? No. Let her walk into the void. Let her confront the echoing emptiness I'd orchestrated. That was the only poetry I was interested in. Back at the Staybridge, which I was already starting to think of as my new temporary fortress, it was organized chaos. Boxes piled high, furniture draped in blankets. The pain in my leg, ignored for hours, screamed for attention. Exhaustion, bone-deep and profound, threatened to pull me under. But beneath it, a dark, unfamiliar thrill. A sense of triumph. I'd struck the first significant blow in a war I hadn't started, but was damn well going to finish. I slept that night on a bare mattress wedged between boxes of my clothes. Curtis curled at my feet, his warm presence a small, solid comfort in the vast emptiness. I'd timed it perfectly. Barbara was due back Sunday evening. I braced myself, expecting the deluge. Calls, texts, threats, tears, the full Barbara melodrama. But even I wasn't quite prepared for the sheer, unadulterated fury that erupted. My burner phone lit up around 7 p.m. A rapid-fire succession of texts. "Where the hell is everything? Everett, if this is some kind of sick joke, it's not funny. You goddamn monster! You took Curtis? That's my dog! You can't do this? I'll have you arrested! Call me right now, you cowardly fool, Oregon. You'll regret the day you were born." I read them, a strange calm settling over me. The predicted storm had arrived. My heart hammered, a dull, steady beat against my ribs. She'd found it. The phone began to ring, a shrill, incessant shriek. I watched it vibrate on the cheap nightstand for a long moment, then switched it off. There was nothing she could say that I wanted or needed to hear. Bernice, however, ever my eyes and ears, had a doorbell camera installed across the street from my old house, just in case. She sent me a short video clip. Barbara, standing in the driveway, an empty leash dangling from her hand, screaming at the vacant windows, her voice a raw, ragged tear in the quiet suburban evening. "He took everything! The fool took my dog! He can't do this to me!" Her performance was Oscar-worthy, hair artfully disheveled, arms flailing for the benefit of any curious neighbors. I watched it twice, a cold smile touching my lips. My hand found Curtis's thick fur. "Yeah, buddy," I whispered. "She never deserved you anyway." I went dark, ignored the escalating threats, the increasingly unhinged voicemails. Reggie, my rock and roll lawyer, was a bastion of calm reassurance. "You're golden, Everett. Everything taken was documented as premarital or your justifiable half of joint assets. She can scream all she wants. She can't touch you." We filed for divorce the next morning. The petition was served to a stunned, furious Barbara at her workplace. The humiliation, I imagined, was exquisite. About a week later, Gage texted me, a single unpunctuated word. Hey! My first instinct was to block the number, to sever that tie completely. But a morbid curiosity, a desire to see just how deep the rot went, won out. I told him if he had something to say, he could damn well say it to my face. He showed up at the Staybridge the following Sunday, shoulders slumped, his usual teenage swagger noticeably absent. He mumbled something about how screwed up everything was at home, how Barbara was a walking inferno of rage, how Silvio was suddenly around all the time, acting like he owned the place, like he was the new man of the house. Then the kicker. Mom, she wanted me to say that stuff to you on the phone, he muttered, staring at his scuffed sneakers. That day when you were in the hospital, she was pissed you kept calling, said you were being a pain in the A. She told me if I said we didn't miss you, if I made you feel like crap, she'd get me that new VR headset. I just stared at him. The cold fury in my gut twisted, tightened. Part of me, the part that was still raw and bleeding, wanted to throw him out on his A. But he was 16, a pawn in his mother's manipulative games, or just a chip off the old block. Well, I said, my voice flat, devoid of any sympathy. Did you get the VR system, Gage? He looked up, a flicker of defiance in his eyes, quickly extinguished. Yeah, that one word, it told me everything. Barbara hadn't just abandoned me. She'd actively poisoned her own son against me, bribed him to twist the knife. It didn't matter anymore. I'm fresh out of room for manipulations, Gage, I said, my voice like ice. From her or from you? A few days later, the universe, in its infinite capacity for black humor, decided to throw Silvio in my path. I was at the grocery store, limping down the aisle with a cart, picking out frozen dinners and bruised fruit, the bachelor's banquet. And there he was, by the goddamn deli counter, oozing smarmy charm as he ordered his prosciutto. Muscular, tanned, wearing a shirt 2 sizes too small, a sleazy, self-satisfied smirk plastered on his face. He spotted me. The smirk widened. He sauntered over, all false bonhomie. Hey there, champ. Everett, right? He stuck out a hand. I ignored it. Heard you, redecorated the place? Little dramatic, wasn't it? Stripping it bare like that. He spoke as if we were old pals discussing a minor sporting infraction. My blood, already simmering, began to boil. I gripped the handle of my cart, knuckles white. That's none of your goddamn business, I said, my voice low, tight. He chuckled, a greasy, unpleasant sound. Relax, man. Barbara's got a bit of a mouth on her, you know? Telling everyone you're unstable, losing it. Guess the accident really did a number on you. Leg still giving you trouble? He glanced pointedly at my braced leg, the smirk never leaving his face. The air crackled. Patrons nearby were starting to notice, their shopping slowing. You keep Barbara's name out of your damn mouth, I growled, the restraint I was clinging to starting to fray. And you stay the hell away from me and from what's mine. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial, taunting whisper, his breath smelling of cheap cologne and something rotten. Oh, I think you'll find she's not yours anymore, pal. Hasn't been for a long time. And between you and me, you're not half the man you think you are. Now that she's, shall we say, available, we'll see who she really prefers. He winked. That was it. The snap. I didn't think. I reacted. My groceries forgotten, I lunged. Not a punch, not something that could be easily construed as attack. I shoved him, hard. All the rage, the betrayal, the helplessness of the past few months channeled into that one violent expulsion. He stumbled back, surprised, arms flailing, crashing into a towering display of potato chips. Bags exploded, raining down around him like greasy confetti. What the hell, man? He sputtered, eyes wide with shock and a dawning fury. And then, the moment that still plays in my head on a loop. A moment of pure, unadulterated, cathartic release. I slapped him. Open palm. A crack that echoed through the brightly lit aisle like a bang. His head snapped to the side. A collective gasp from the onlookers. A stunned, perfect silence. That, I hissed, my voice trembling with adrenaline, is for trespassing. On my wife, on my life. I turned my back on him, leaving him amidst the ruins of the chip display, one hand clapped to his cheek. A flustered manager rushed over, babbling about security, about calling the police. Silvio was dabbing at his lip, a smear of red, probably just the force of the impact, not actual blood, but the humiliation was palpable. "Sir, do you want to leave quietly, or do I need to involve the authorities?" The manager stammered, looking from me to Silvio. "I'm done here," I bit out, grabbing my crutches. I hobbled out, leaving my cart, leaving the whispers and stares behind. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. As I fumbled with my car keys, I saw Silvio storm out of the store, already on his phone, face contorted in rage. Calling Barbara, no doubt. Let him. Let them both stew in the mess they'd made. I was past caring. I was just getting started. Days crawled by. Physical therapy was a witch. Each session a fresh reminder of my body's betrayal. Tessa, the nurse from the hospital, had transferred to the outpatient clinic. We ran into each other. Coffee happened. She tiptoed around the subject of my imploding marriage, her sympathy a gentle balm I hadn't realized I craved. When I finally laid out the sordid details, the abandonment, the affair, the financial ruin, she just shook her head, her expression a mixture of sorrow and disbelief. "Everett," she said softly, her hand briefly covering mine, "I am so sorry that happened to you. No one deserves that." Her kindness was a stark contrast to Barbara's casual cruelty. But I was a goddamn minefield of unresolved anger, nowhere near ready for anything resembling human connection. Still, it was nice, not feeling entirely alone in the wreckage. Then Barbara, ever the drama queen, decided to escalate. Another trip. Nashville again. Her moving on party, she called it. A celebratory middle finger to me and our collapsing marriage, funded, no doubt, by the dregs of our joint savings money the courts hadn't yet frozen. Bernice, my ever-vigilant sister, had flagged more suspicious transfers. The rage, which had momentarily subsided into a low simmer, roared back to life. If she wanted to swan off to Nashville for a screw you Everett tour, fine, let her. But this time I wouldn't be waiting by the phone. This time I'd be there, at the house, our house, still, legally speaking, waiting to greet her. I was done hiding, done being the sufferer. Reggie, cool as ever, talked me through the legalities. "Property's still in both your names? You have every right to be there, Everett. She can't claim trespassing. Just try not to commit any actual felonies, okay?" He'd even had a smirk playing on his lips. Early Saturday morning, I parked my battered car down the street out of sight. Still limping, still reliant on a cane now instead of crutches, but fueled by a cold, hard resolve. I wanted to see her face. I wanted her to understand unequivocally that the doormat she'd wiped her feet on for 8 years was gone. She came home a day early, Sunday afternoon, rolling her suitcase up the walkway, humming to herself, a picture of carefree liberation. I stepped out from the side of the house, Curtis trotting calmly at my heel. She stopped dead. Her eyes widened, then narrowed, like she'd seen a particularly unwelcome ghost. "What in the absolute hell are you doing here?" she hissed, her voice tight, the suitcase thudding to the pavement. "You can't just show up! This is my home!" I leaned on my cane, affecting a calm I didn't entirely feel. "Actually, Barbara, it's our home. Name's still on the deed, remember? Or did that slip your mind while you were blowing through our rapidly dwindling savings in Nashville with your boy toy?" Her attempt at a sneer faltered, replaced by a cornered, almost feral look. "I needed a break!" Gage is driving me up the wall, and your whole disappearing act, your silent treatment. A harsh, humorless laugh escaped me. "My disappearing act? Lady, I was in a damn hospital bed, half dead, while you were auditioning my replacement. Then you told me, and I quote, to die fast or heal quick because my continued existence was inconveniencing your social life. Does that ring any bells, Barb, or has the Tennessee moonshine addled your memory?" She rolled her eyes, a flash of her old dismissive arrogance. "Oh, stop playing the goddamn martyr, Everett. It's not a good look. If you'd been a better husband, a more attentive partner, maybe—" "Don't," I cut her off, my voice dropping to a dangerous level. "Don't you dare try to pin your crappy behavior on me. You spent months, maybe longer, screwing Silvio behind my back. While I was working my A off to pay for this house, for your shopping sprees, for your son's endless list of wants." Her mouth tightened into a thin, ugly line. "You can't prove a thing." I shrugged, a casual gesture that belied the inferno raging inside me. Doesn't matter. We both know the truth. We're done, Barbara. This charade is over. I just wanted to see your face when you finally realized you can't push me around anymore. That the gravy train has made its last stop. Her eyes, like a cornered animal's, flickered to Curtis, who was sniffing a rogue grass by the patio. Give me my dog, she snapped, a sudden desperate lunge for some semblance of control. He's mine. My eyebrow shot up. Oh, now he's yours? Funny. I don't recall you ever feeding him, never walking him, unless it was for a goddamn Instagram post. You only wanted him when it suited your image. Sorry, sweetheart, but this dog? He's not going anywhere near you again. She advanced a step, her face contorting, a raw, primal anger in her eyes I'd never witnessed, not even in our worst arguments. It was almost impressive. You son of a witch, you piece of freaking trash. You waltz back in here, into my house. Half mine, I corrected, a small, vicious smile playing on my lips. I was enjoying this, the stripping away of her composure. And you have the unmitigated gall to stand there, acting like this is all my fault? Like you're some kind of innocent sufferer? I took a slow breath, the familiar ache in my leg a dull counterpoint to the adrenaline coursing through me. Whose fault it is, Barbara, is irrelevant at this point. We're getting divorced. You stole my money, you shattered my trust, you left me to rot. Now you think you're entitled to something more? No. I just came here to see if you had the guts to say any of your nonsense to my actual face, instead of through lawyers or over anonymous texts. And then, she snapped. On a dime, her carefully constructed facade shattered. You want something real, Everett? She shrieked, her voice cracking. I'll give you freaking real! She launched herself at me, a blur of fury. Her hands clawed for my shirt, nails, sharp and manicured, raking at my chest. The gaudy diamond ring I'd stupidly bought her glinted in the afternoon sun. She kicked out, aiming for my injured leg. Instinct, raw and primal, took over. I stumbled back, trying to maintain my balance on the uneven patio stones, the cane clattering away. She lunged again, grabbing for my arm. I sidestepped, a clumsy but effective pivot, and used her own momentum against her. My hands came up, not to strike, but to push, to create space, to get her the hell off me. A firm, desperate shove. She flailed, arms pinwheeling, a strangled, high-pitched shriek tearing from her throat as her balance deserted her. Her body pitched backward, a slow-motion tableau of surprise and rage, and then she was gone, disappearing with a tremendous, ignominious splash into the goddamn swimming pool. The sound was deafening in the sudden quiet. I hobbled to the edge, heart pounding, watching her sputter and thrash in the shallow end. Her expensive Nashville outfit was ruined, hair plastered to her face, mascara streaming in black rivulets down her cheeks. She coughed, glaring up at me with an expression of pure, undiluted hatred. You a-hole! She screamed, wading toward the steps, water cascading off her. I just stood there, panting, the adrenaline making my hands tremble. Don't you ever, I said, my voice low and shaking with a terrifying cocktail of emotions. Put your hands on me again, Barbara. I freaking mean it. Curtis, as if on cue, let out a sharp bark, a canine exclamation point to my threat. For a fleeting second, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear. Genuine fear. Then it was gone, replaced by a white-hot, incandescent fury. You are going to pay for this, Everett, she spat, pushing clumps of wet hair from her eyes. I will ruin you. I will take everything you have left. You'll see, I snorted, a harsh, humorless sound. Good luck with that, sweetheart. You've already done your worst. And guess what? I'm still freaking standing. I turned, retrieved my cane, and limped away, leaving her there, a sodden, shrieking fury in her own backyard. Let the neighbors watch. Let them whisper. This was the real Barbara, stripped bare of her pretenses. And for the first time, amidst the betrayal and the anger, I felt something else, a dark, exhilarating thrill. I'd stood up to her. I'd fought back. Does that make me the villain? Maybe, but every story has one. And sometimes, the villain is just the one who's finally had enough. I didn't hear a peep from her for the rest of the day. I imagined her nursing her wounded pride, probably on the phone with Silvio, weaving a tale of my unprovoked brutality. Letter. I went back to my sterile hotel room, collapsed onto the bed, and slept the sleep of the utterly, profoundly exhausted. My phone remained silent until around 6 that evening. It buzzed on the nightstand. Caller ID. Gage. I let it ring, half tempted to just ignore it. He left a voicemail. Everett? Dude, we gotta talk, like, Seriously, it's important. His voice was a typically teenage whine, but with an undercurrent of something that sounded suspiciously like panic. I sighed. Against my better judgment, I called him back. He asked if he could come over. Said it was about college, about how all the money was suddenly gone, how Barbara was ranting that I needed to pay, that it was my job as her soon-to-be ex-husband. I told him, fine. If he wanted a conversation, he could have it, face to face. He agreed to come by the next morning. I steeled myself. I figured a calm, rational discussion about financial aid, student loans, the harsh realities of life. My capacity for empathy, however, was running on fumes. He arrived around noon the next day, not knocking, just barging into my apartment because, of course he did. Scowl etched on his face, arms crossed in that belligerent teenage stance. He didn't even glance at Curtis, who had approached him with a hopeful tail wag. He marched right up to me. "Mom says you locked her out of all the accounts," he announced. No greeting, no preamble. Just accusation. "She says you're not going to pay for my college, and I need that money. It's my future." I leaned heavily on my cane. The effort of standing, of just existing in the same room as this entitled brat, suddenly immense. "Hello to you too, Gage." "Always a pleasure," he huffed, impatient. "Whatever. I'm serious. I'm applying to schools, and she said you cleaned out everything. Dad—" He stopped, the word catching in his throat, alien and unused. "Everett, whatever, you gotta pay." "That's the deal, right? You married my mom. You're supposed to take care of us. That's what stepdads do." A bitter, incredulous laugh clawed its way out of me. "Am I, Gage? Is that the deal? Because last I checked, you and your mother made it abundantly clear that my services were no longer required. You specifically informed me that you didn't miss me, that you wanted me gone. Hate to break it to you, kid, but actions have consequences. And one of those consequences is that I am no longer your personal damn ATM. Gage's face flushed a dull, angry red. That was Mom's idea, okay? She said if I told you that, you'd back off. Stop dragging things out. She said you were too soft, that you'd fold. I raised an eyebrow, a slow, deliberate movement. Well, Gage, it appears I'm not so soft anymore, am I? You want college money? Apply for scholarships? Get a part-time job? Ask your mother where all our money really went? Maybe her new pal Silvio can chip in from his lucrative career of... Well, whatever the hell it is he does besides comforting lonely housewives. His eyes narrowed, fury radiating off him in palpable waves. Don't you damn talk about Silvio like that. He's a good guy. Better than you, anyway. Oh, for Christ's sake, Gage, grow up, I snapped, my patience completely gone. I know exactly what he is, and frankly, so should you. He's the reason your mother conveniently forgot she had a husband lying in a hospital bed. He was keeping her busy. It's not my freaking problem, Gage shouted, his fists clenched, his face contorted. I just want my goddamn college money. If you don't pay, I swear to God, I'll make your life a living hell. You hear me? You'll regret this. Big time. The threat, raw and impotent, hung in the stale air of the cheap hotel room. I felt something inside me. Something cold and hard, solidify. I might be the villain in their twisted narrative, but I'd be damned if I'd cower before this spoiled, overindulged brat. You better get the hell out of my apartment, I said, my voice a low, dangerous growl. Before I do something we'll both regret. I am sick to freaking end of you and your mother thinking you're entitled to bleed me dry. You want me to pay for your college after everything? Not a chance in hell. Now get out. Go cry to Mommy. He kicked out, his heel slamming into the side of my cheap particle board coffee table. The jolt sent a sharp stab of pain up my already aching leg. Screw you! He screamed, his voice cracking. You can't do this to me! You can't! I'd had enough. I grabbed his arm, my grip surprisingly strong, fueled by pure adrenaline and rage. I spun him around, yanked open the door, and shoved him hard out into the hallway. Yes, Gage, I said, my voice trembling with barely suppressed violence. I absolutely damn can. Now go home. I slammed the door in his face, the sound echoing the finality of it all. My heart hammered against my ribs. I leaned against the door, taking ragged, shallow breaths. Through the thin wood, I could hear him, cursing, screaming, a litany of pathetic, childish threats. Then, the sound of retreating, stomping footsteps. It wasn't over. Of course, it wasn't over. Minutes later, a series of sickening thuds from outside. Then a crash, the unmistakable sound of shattering glass. Adrenaline, cold and sharp, jolted through me. I wrenched the door open. Gage. He was in the parking lot, a goddamn brick in his hand, swinging it wildly at my car. The driver's side window was already a spiderweb of cracks, the side mirror hanging by a wire. "You worthless, cheap old fool," he shrieked, his face a mask of contorted, tear-streaked rage. "You pay for my college, or I'll make you pay another way. I'll destroy everything you own." The sheer, unmitigated entitlement of it stole my breath. "You little piece of crap!" I roared, lunging out of the doorway, my cane forgotten, hobbling as fast as my wrecked leg would allow. "Drop the freaking brick!" He brought it down again, with vicious force, on the hood of my car, leaving a deep, ugly dent. Then he dragged it across the driver's side door, scoring a long silver scar in the paintwork. "This is what you get!" he screamed, spittle flying from his lips. Neighbors were starting to appear on their balconies, phones already out, recording. Curtis was barking frantically from inside my apartment. I fumbled for my own phone, fingers slick with sweat, and dialed 911. "I'm done playing your games, Gage," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, staring him directly in the eye. "You're going to jail, you little psycho!" He continued to swear. A torrent of filth took one last, defiant swing at the already ruined windshield, then turned to bolt. But the wail of sirens, blessedly quick, cut through the afternoon air. A cruiser, lights flashing, screeched to a halt at the entrance to the parking lot. 2 officers were out in a heartbeat, weapons drawn, voices sharp and commanding. "Police! Hands in the air! Get on the ground now!" Gage froze, the brick clattering to the asphalt. Tears of rage and frustrated impotence streamed down his face. "He won't pay for my future!" he shrieked, a full-blown hysterical meltdown. "He's trying to ruin my life!" The officers were on him in seconds, forcing him to the ground, cuffing him with brutal efficiency. One of them, a stern-faced woman, gave me a curt nod. "You want to press charges, sir?" I swallowed, the lump in my throat thick and painful. "He trespassed," I said, my voice hoarse, shaking. "He vandalized my property. He threatened me." "Yes. Yes, I want to press charges." They hauled Gage to his feet, panting, disheveled. He glared at me, eyes blazing with a hatred that was almost pure. "You're going to regret this, you old freak," he spat. "You'll see, Mom will fix this. She'll get me out, and I'll be back. I'll make you pay." I said nothing. My first impulse was to unleash a fresh torrent of invective, but a profound, soul-deep exhaustion had settled over me. I just watched as they bundled him into the back of the cruiser, the door slamming shut with a metallic finality. Neighbors gaped from their porches, their faces a mixture of shock, disapproval, and morbid curiosity. I turned away, unable to meet their eyes. It didn't matter. I was done. Done being their punching bag. Done being the collateral damage in their dysfunctional lives. The aftermath was a predictable crap show. Formal complaints, police statements, insurance claims. A barrage of hysterical texts and voicemails from Barbara, accusing me of ruining Gage's life, of being a vindictive monster. Ruining his life by, what? Holding him accountable for his actions? Bernice, ever practical, advised me to seek some measure of peace. Warned that the conflict was consuming me. Peace. Easy for her to say. Peace felt like a distant, unattainable shore. I was drowning in a toxic brew of anger, betrayal, and a grim, unsettling satisfaction that I was finally, unequivocally hitting back and hitting hard. I'd like to say that was the end of it. The grand, dramatic climax. But untangling 8 years of a toxic marriage isn't a clean break. It's a messy, protracted amputation. A few days later, a new number on my caller ID. Silvio. Probably calling to posture, to gloat, to issue more empty threats. I let it go to voicemail. "Heard you had a little run-in with your boy, Everett, and saw that video of you baptizing Barbara in the pool. Real classy, real tough guy, aren't you? Why don't you come talk to me man to man? You want to put your hands on someone? Try putting them on me. I'm waiting." I deleted the message, a weary sigh escaping me. If he wanted a confrontation, he could find me. I wasn't seeking him out. I wasn't playing his childish games. The court set a date for the divorce proceedings. Barbara naturally contested everything. The property division, the assets, even, hilariously, custody of Curtis, claiming he was her emotional support animal. Reggie, my legal gladiator, calmly, methodically dismantled her arguments, presenting a mountain of evidence. My premarital, Assets, her documented withdrawals, the Cancun tickets, the jewelry receipts for Silvio, the witness statements from the movers. She didn't have a leg to stand on. She backed down on the dog, but dug in her heels about the house, playing the sufferer, the wronged woman, about to be cast out onto the street. The sale, however, was inevitable. Joint mortgage, joint debt. The final hearing was a month away. I braced myself for a final, ugly courtroom battle. During those weeks, Gage's case lumbered through the juvenile court system. He was fined, ordered to pay restitution for the damage to my car, a little over $1,000 for the glass and paint, and mandated to attend anger management classes. He seethed. Barbara tried to intervene, to charm the prosecutor, to claim I'd provoked Gage, that I'd attacked him first, but my neighbor's doorbell camera footage was irrefutable. Gage, the aggressor. Gage, the vandal. Gage, screaming threats. He started a campaign of maltreatment, texting me from burner apps, a stream of juvenile insults and curses. I blocked each new number, a tedious but necessary ritual. My physical therapist, a no-nonsense woman who'd seen her share of trauma, warned that the emotional stress was impeding my recovery. So I channeled the rage into my exercises, into my rehab. Strangely, it worked. Each painful extension, each grueling repetition became a blow against them. By the time the final court date loomed, I was off the cane, relying only on a supportive brace for my leg. Stronger, harder. The day of the divorce hearing, I walked into the courtroom in a new suit, Reggie at my side, a quiet, confident presence. Barbara sat at the opposing table, flanked by her own frazzled-looking lawyer. She was tapping her foot, her eyes darting around the room, a caged animal looking for an escape route. Gage was thankfully nowhere in sight. Silvio, too, was conspicuously absent. Perhaps the well had run dry. Perhaps he'd realized Barbara was more liability than asset. The judge, a stern, no-nonsense woman, cut through the nonsense with surgical precision. She reviewed the financials, the asset divisions, the evidence of Barbara's indiscretions. She asked Barbara if she had any final, compelling arguments. Barbara fumbled, looked desperately at her lawyer, who gave a minute, almost imperceptible shake of his head. It was over in less than an hour. Marriage dissolved. House to be sold? Proceeds split down the middle after my documented premarital assets and her documented financial misuses were accounted for. Each of us to depart with what was legally, unequivocally ours. In the hallway afterwards, Barbara, her face pale, her eyes red-rimmed, tried one last, desperate gambit. "Everett, She hesitated, a tremor in her voice, actual tears welling. "I don't understand how it all fell apart so fast. How it got so ugly." I looked at her, really looked at her, for perhaps the first time in years, and I felt nothing. A vast, echoing emptiness where love, or what I'd mistaken for love, used to be. "It fell apart, Barbara," I said, my voice cold, devoid of inflection. "The moment you decided I wasn't worth the gas money, the moment you told me to die quickly. Actually, no, it fell apart long before that. You just finally stopped pretending. This ugliness, you orchestrated it. You just never expected me to fight back." A tear escaped, tracing a path through her carefully applied makeup. "I was angry," she whispered, "and scared. And Silvio, he was just there. But he's gone now. They all leave, eventually." Her voice was small, lost. For a nanosecond, a flicker of something akin to pity stirred within me. I crushed it. "That, Barbara," I said, turning to walk away, my braced legs stiff but steady, "is your problem, not mine." I didn't look back. Weeks later, the house sold. Quickly. Hot market. After the lawyers took their pound of flesh, the remaining proceeds were split. Reggie ensured the check cleared into my new solitary account. I paid off the lingering medical bills, put a down payment on a small, unremarkable condo in a different part of town, and banked the rest. A fresh start. Or at least, a different one. Gage, I heard through Bernice, was living with Barbara in a cramped two-bedroom apartment, grudgingly attending his anger management sessions and working a crappy part-time job at a fast food joint to pay off his restitution to me. He never apologized. I never expected him to. As for me, I kept up with the physical therapy. Tessa, the kind nurse, the one who'd shown me a sliver of human decency when I was at my lowest, became a friend. Coffee turned into occasional dinners. She listened without judgment, her gentle presence a quiet counterpoint to the lingering bitterness that still sometimes threatened to consume me. I wasn't ready for anything more, anything complicated, but her friendship was a lifeline. Months passed, the legal dust settled. My leg, scarred and permanently stiff, healed as much as it ever would. I could walk Curtis for miles without the constant grinding pain. The suffocating tightness in my chest began to ease, replaced by a kind of weary resignation. Barbara's calls dwindled, then stopped altogether, save for the occasional maudlin, wine-fueled voicemail about how Gage really needed a father figure, or how maybe we made a mistake. I erased them, unlistened. So, here I am, single. A slight permanent limp, a modest condo that smells of dog kibble and new beginnings. Do I have illusions about my own actions? About the cold, calculated cruelty I'd unleashed? No, I was ruthless. I was vengeful. I took not just what was mine, but I took it in a way designed to inflict maximum damage, maximum humiliation. After the abandonment, the betrayal, the casual disregard for my very existence, I don't lose a moment's sleep over it. Gage faced his consequences. Fined, community service, restitution. His rage was impotent against the cold, impartial machinery of the law. Barbara begged me to drop the charges, offered to pay me back, to make it right. I refused. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Respect, I've discovered, isn't given, it's taken. Usually from those who've tried to strip you of it. Silvio? He slithered away, a footnote in the saga of my imploded marriage, probably already sniffing around his next mark. My last interaction with him was that slap in the grocery store. A fitting farewell. Barbara tells her version, I'm sure, paints me as the monster, the misuser, the one who shattered her idyllic life. Let her. I embraced the role she cast for me. I became the villain of her story. And in a strange, twisted way, it set me free. If that's villainy, then I wear the label with a certain grim satisfaction. The empty house, the stolen dog, the hospital betrayal, the push into the pool, the brick through the windshield, the acrimonious divorce. It's one hell of a chapter, but it's closed. Bernice and I are closer than ever. Tessa is a genuine friend, a reminder that not all human connection is transactional. Curtis is living his best life, snoring at my feet as I write this. And me? I'm back at work, supervising, taking it slow, rebuilding. If you ask me if I regret any of it, the scorched earth tactics, the cold fury, the refusal to forgive, the answer is complicated. The man I was, the one who lay in that hospital bed, ignored and betrayed, he regrets nothing. He did what he had to do to survive, to reclaim some part of himself. People show you who they are in a crisis. Barbara showed me her true colors, and I, in turn, showed her mine. In the end, maybe everyone got what they deserved. Barbara is adrift in the emptiness she created. Gage learned a harsh lesson about consequences. Silvio learned that not all marks are easy, and I found a strength I never knew I possessed, a capacity for ruthlessness I never suspected, and, in that discovery, a strange, unsettling kind of peace. It's done. The battles are over. The apologies never came. I'm okay with that. I'm not waiting for their remorse to heal me. I'm healing myself. One day, one step, one quiet evening with my dog at my feet, at a time. And for the first time in a long, long time, I can breathe. And that, I've learned, is worth everything.